Hello, Bulldogs. Here we are with our next flipped lesson on the physical geography of the Indian subcontinent. As we did with the last one, you're going to fill in your note sheet. Anything that is highlight or that is printed in blue is going to be something that you fill in on your handout. Remember, you have to have this done before you can participate in the fun activity that we're going to do on the due date. So, here we go. All right, this is the region that we're looking at. We are looking at the south part of Asia. You can see the Himalaya mountains right here, and they kind of make one of the borders between China and South Asia. So here are the countries that we are going to look at. Here are some of the important physical features. Mountain range up here. We have the Deccan Plateau. We have a couple of awesome rivers, and we'll get to all that in just a bit. So the physical features of this region include the fact that it's made up of 7 countries. And so the 7 countries are Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, the Maldives, Nepal, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka. It's called a subcontinent because it's a large landmass, but it's not large enough to be a continent. It's a little bit smaller, so we call it a subcontinent. We also call this region South Asia, or the Indian subcontinent, because India is the biggest country in that region, and some of the cultural traits are very similar in this area of the world. All right, first thing is the mountains. The Hindu Kush Mountains are in the northwest, so kind of like this direction if we had a map here. And they divide the subcontinent from Central Asia. We have the Himalaya Mountains that stretch for 1,500 miles along the north border. And if you want to look at a map in your book, you can go to page 617, and there's a nice little map there that you can reference while you're taking the notes here. So on the border between Nepal and China is Mount Everest, and Mount Everest is the highest mountain on the planet. So lots of people like to go climb Mount Everest. It's like a bucket list item for some really active people who like to travel and be in the snow and the cold and camp and freeze and stuff. The K2 mountain in northern Pakistan is the second highest peak, and so sometimes people like to climb K2 and then they go climb Mount Everest. It's kind of their like crowning achievement. All right, this is my friend Dan, and my friend Dan actually climbed Mount Everest, and he let me use this picture. But he did this last, I think, April. But you can see that it's snowy there, and he is wearing like cold weather clothes and boots and hiking sticks, and this does not look fun to me at all. It makes a really awesome picture, but if you could maybe take me in a helicopter and drop me down there, and then let me pose, and then pick me up, and then drop me back somewhere warmer, that would probably be pretty awesome. But when he was there, there was an avalanche, but it was on the other side of the mountain. But avalanches are really dangerous, obviously, because falling snow and rock, and it can kill people, which doesn't sound very fun to me. All right, so the rivers and plains, which are more pleasant to me than snowy capped mountains. So there's 2 major rivers in this region, and both of them have their sources in the Himalaya Mountains. And so what it means to have a source is that's where the river kind of starts. And so all of the ice melts down the mountain, or the snow melts down the mountain, and it makes these rivers that flow into the sea. So the Ganges River flows across northern India and into Bangladesh. And so if you follow your map on page 617, you can see where the Ganges River is. So there it joins with some other rivers, and it creates a delta. And a delta is like where they kind of make a triangle, and this is not going to look right. Flip that upside down. I don't know. This isn't going to look right no matter how I do it on the screen because it's backwards. It kind of goes like that. So it makes a delta. The rivers join together and they kind of branch out at the mouth of the river. And the mouth of the river is where the river meets another, like a more open body of water. And so what happens at the delta, the river delta, is it creates sediment deposits. And sediment deposits make for really fertile farmland, makes it a desirable place for people to live. So if you can kind of peek up here at this little map, it's really small, you can see I'm kind of outlining a river delta here. And so this is a very nice place for people to live. And so the Indus River in Pakistan over here ish, creates a fertile region that's the most densely populated region in Pakistan. And remember, we know that densely populated areas have lots of people living in a smaller confined space. So that tells you that that is a very desirable place for people to live in Pakistan. All right, so south of the Ganges Plain is a large hilly plateau called the Deccan, and it's kind of in the middle-ish, southern middle part of India. And if you look at the map on page 617, you can see that also. And east of the Indus Valley is the Thar River, or sorry, the Thar Desert, or it's also called the Great Indian Desert. And they get as little as 4 inches of rain per year, which is not very much. It's probably really hot there. And then we have the Tari region in Nepal, where they have very fertile farmland and they have tropical jungles. All right, now as far as the climates and the resources go, I know we really haven't talked a whole lot about climates because that's something that you talk about weather and things like that in science class, so we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on that, but just for references, here we go. So the Himalayas are covered with snow, and this is going to show you the kind of diversity of the region as far as how the weather is, or the climates. You know, is it hot, is it cold, is it rainy, is it not, etc. So the Himalayas are covered with snow, as you saw in Dan's picture of him hiking in his boots and his fleeced coat and headband and whatnot. The Thar Desert is dry and it's hot. And they have cooler climates in Nepal and Bhutan, but hot, humid weather in central India, Sri Lanka, the Maldives, and Bangladesh. In Sri Lanka, it's like, I don't know, 88 and humid all year round. And it's humid, like it gets really humid here in the summer, but it's like that year round. Okay, so one of the weather type things that people have to deal with in this region is a monsoon. And a monsoon is a seasonal wind that either brings in moist air from the ocean or dry air from the inner continent into an area. And so from June to October is the summer monsoon season. And the summer monsoon season brings all this moist air in from the Indian Ocean, and it makes these big, heavy rains and causes flooding. Like in some cases, they get 34 inches of rain in 24 hours. So it's like way more rain than we can ever imagine ever in our entire lives. And so here's a picture of some of the monsoon type flooding. This was from a newspaper in Sri Lanka, in Colombo, Sri Lanka. You can see the big waves kind of crashing up on the surf because of the winds that are coming in. And in the winter, dry air comes from the opposite direction, and so there's very little rain in the winter season. Okay, now we talk about natural resources, because we know natural resources are important to any country or any society. So some of the things that are really nice in this region is they have very fertile soil. And so because they have very fertile soil, they're able to grow lots of crops. So they grow tea, rice, nuts, jute, which is used to make rope. Timber and livestock are also really important because they have good land. They're able to grow lots of trees. They can graze livestock because the ground is good. They have crops for that. And iron ore and coal are important natural resources in India. Pakistan has natural gas, and Sri Lanka has many gemstones. So I think it's sapphires that are really big in Sri Lanka. I remember going to took us to jewelry shops all the time, like every other day we went to a jewelry store and they tried to get us to buy fancy jewelry. It was very nice jewelry, but I'm not on vacation to buy jewelry. But that was something that they were very proud of in their country. Okay, so that is it for this flip. So hopefully you've learned a little something. You've referenced your map on page 617 in your book. You've filled in all of the tags and you have taken note of key vocabulary because that is going to come into play for activity. So make sure you have this ready on the due date, have it on your desk, and I will surprise you with a fancy stamp. All right.